moving into The Color Purple, this is obviously we had first the book, which we'll get into, the movie from Steven Spielberg with Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, Danny Glover, and
Mm.
then there was a stage musical, and now this is the adaptation of the musical.
Yeah.
And this is like one of Warner Brothers like holiday tentpole films, and it's also apparently like the most successful post-COVID musical, at least in the live
Oh wow.
action area, because In the Heights and West Side Story unfortunately
Mm.
didn't do too well with ticket sales, even though both great films. Um, so yeah, overall, what did you feel about this newer version of The Color Purple?
Yeah, I loved it. The book is fantastic. I read it 3 times, so it's an
Wow.
amazing book. And the musical definitely, like, the book is interesting because obviously you're dealing with some super heavy topics. And yet the book itself, like, it's not one of those books where you're just like, oh man, like, I need to like decompress because this was so depressing and heavy or something. Like, ultimately, the ending is so uplifting and it's just like such a beautiful
Right.
story in the end. And yeah, the older movie definitely has more of that heaviness, whereas the musical, they still talk about these heavy topics and there's some difficult scenes, but I felt like it was just lighter and an easier watch than the Spielberg version. And yeah, I
Yeah, for
love the
sure.
performances, and I also like musicals, so I am biased. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so this one definitely, first of all, I think it's really well put together in terms of production value, costumes. Um,
Yeah.
I think all the choreography looks great. But I think this one is probably inferior a little to the Spielberg movie, just because I might have been biased because I watched it. But I think, like you said, that one had a lot more grit. This one
Yeah.
lost a little bit. I was
Yeah.
also unfamiliar with the musical, so some of the musical numbers were a little like, I don't want to say jarring, but sometimes it was jarring, jumping like from dark to like this really uplifting musical element. But I think the cast is what carries it. Fantasia
Oh
Barrino
yeah.
is really good. Taraji P Henson, honestly, for me, stole the movie. I thought
Yeah, she was fantastic.
every time she did anything, I just thought she was running away with the movie because she was so terrific
Yeah.
as Shug Avery. I don't remember. I've seen the other one a while ago now, but I think she managed to make the role so potent and also inspiring. Like her character manages to not only entertain but like lift others up around her,
Hmm.
which is really cool. Danielle Brooks is terrific. We'll get into her Oscar nomination soon. Her was great to see. Holly
Yeah.
Bailey, Corey Hawkins, but I think Coleman Domingo was such a standout for me
Yeah.
because also you had Danny Glover doing it perfectly in the original. He was Mister, who's really ruthless and not even trying to hide it. He's very like
Hmm.
abusive towards Celie. But Coleman Domingo, he managed to make the role his still.
Yeah.
And I thought he was just uh, so terrific. Like he proved himself equally formidable in the role that Danny Glover did it. And
Hmm.
I don't know if anyone else could have done it that well the way he did it in this movie.
Yeah, and I've seen him in a number of movies and he just has such a presence on the screen. Like, I even when he's
Uh,
unlikable, I still liked seeing Coleman Domingo on screen, even if he's playing a bad person like Mr. is in the start of the movie. But I liked in the musical, one thing I liked better is that in the older movie, we see that he helps get um, Nettie and Celie's children back to the US, but we don't see them have like that moment of like mending their relationship, like in the musical when he comes by her store and he's like dropping stuff off, and they just have this moment where they kind of make amends and he expresses that he wants to be friends with her essentially. And I don't
this
know if
movie,
he
I mean?
in the musical.
Oh,
Yeah. And yeah, I don't remember that in the Spielberg version, but I loved that
right.
scene between the two of them.
If anything, and you can speak to that because you've read the book, but I think this movie definitely, what I didn't expect is later on how much it portrays Mister as a lot more complicated than just the
Mhm.
villain,
Yeah.
because he's actually like actively seeking redemption
Yeah.
later, and he we see that a lot more here when he's actually trying to correct his mistake of separating Celia and Nettie, and he's genuinely emotional with trying to better himself. Is that explored a lot in the book too?
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's one thing I didn't like about the '80s movie is that we didn't get that. And he and Celie in the book, they form like this really close platonic friendship, this relationship, and they become like such good friends by the end of the book. And it was just so beautiful, like the way the relationship changes over the course of the story. And it was one of my favorite things about the book, the fact that he wants to change and be better and the fact that she forgives him, right? Like she could have chosen to be
Yeah.
like, no, like what you did, you don't deserve forgiveness. So the fact that she does allow him to change and forgive him, I thought was just so beautiful. And so I love that we got to look into that with the musical.
So I don't really remember this much, but does she like really forgive him in the '80s movie, or is that
I
not
feel like
really?
we never really saw that. Like we see that he is trying to improve and he like writes the letters to get Nettie back, but yeah, we never like get that moment between them. And so I was definitely craving that in the '80s movie and we just never
Yeah.
got it.
So I will say like light spoilers here, but I think
Yeah.
in this that's probably a better aspect in this version because in towards the end you even see sort of like not even in focus, but like in the background, Coleman Domingo, so like having his hand on his heart because he's so touched by this reunion, which I thought was
Mhm.
a beautiful touch from him. Um, in terms of the musical numbers, what did we think overall?
So I liked the song at the end, which I think that was the song that the movie added, if I remember correctly. So I don't know
Was
how
it?
that didn't get a nomination because it was such a great finale to the end of the
Because I
movie.
heard it. Because I heard that the song that they added, maybe they added multiple, but I heard that the main one they added was "Keep It Moving," which Holly Bailey sings
Oh,
in like the
yeah, they
first
did
half
add that
hour.
one. Yeah. Oh, and I think they also added the song with the young Celie when she sees her daughter in the store. Then she sings the
Oh,
song
that must
saying,
be it.
like, yeah, so I think that was another one that was added.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, like to be honest, I have not listened to this soundtrack since seeing the movie. So it's not one that I'm like, wow, like I want to go back and listen to that. So it didn't like capture me so much that I've kept listening. But in the moment, I enjoyed all the songs.
Yeah, I think there's some where I was like, I feel like this is a little too joyful for like what just happened in the scene right before. Um,
Yeah.
but Corey Hawkins is really great.
Oh,
This is he
yeah.
was also in the Heights, so it's nice to see him enjoying himself whenever he's doing something like this. Probably, I think one of the most memorable songs is Danielle Brooks's like Sophia's anthem, which is called "Hell No,"
Yeah.
which he does a great job with. And I don't remember the name of the song, but Fantasia and Taraji P. Henson have like this song
Oh,
together with sort of a dream sequence.
yeah.
And they have a bit of a relationship here, which I don't remember how much they touched on in the last version of the movie.
Yeah. The last version, like, both of them kind of touch on it, but this again, we see way more in the book. And so, like in the book, Celie and Suge have like a long term relationship that lasts like years. And so both movies kind of like allude to something briefly happening, but neither really delves into it. But I did love that
Yeah,
song in
and
the musical.
she also has the tavern scene. Is it a tavern? Like when she comes to Harpo's bar and does the performance.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty wonderful. Again, anything that
Yeah.
Henson does in this movie was just really great. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. I
but
definitely thought she was amazing.
yeah, and I think this is hers first film role. I might be mistaken on that, but she also had a really good role. But to touch on, again, like showing the characters being like very layered and not just one thing. Harpo goes through, I guess, a similar arc in this one where he like becomes somewhat like inspired by his father in the way he treats Sophia, but then she quickly puts him in line and he changes pretty soon after. Harpo's a lot more of a sympathetic character, but it's a very like raw, courageous way to depict that because it could have easily said like, "Oh, Harpo lashed out once, so now he's a terrible person," because
Yeah.
most like modern films would do that.
Yeah.
Um, but
That's one of the reasons I love the book so much is because these characters are like so nuanced and it's not just like, oh, he's abusive, therefore he's a horrible person, no redemption possible, he's the villain, that's it. Like all of these characters have so much dimension to them And yeah, so I just loved it so much. And I think we do get that. I mean, we got that in the 80s movie kind of, but I feel like you've said, we kind of see the positive side more in the musical, I think. And like the musical also, just like I said, it's not as heavy either. And I think having the music kind of makes it not feel as heavy.
If anything, it made me want to check this out as a stage because I feel like the audience being able to interact with like Shug's performance or Sophia's moments would make it even more entertaining. So I wonder if
Mhm.
that's even still running or if it's been a while.
Yeah, that would be cool
I
to see.
I listened to the producers roundtable on the Hollywood Reporter, and the producer Scott Sanders actually said that at first the author Alice Walker was not a fan of the idea of turning it into a musical when the idea first came up of doing it on the stage. So now that you've read the book and seen both of the films are definitely like different tonally, like we said, but similar in the story structure. Which one do you think is better in capturing the essence and the feel of the book?
Um, I think, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe in some ways, the older movie is maybe like the better adaptation and the more faithful adaptation. But then, like I said, the book, we do see these characters like get to a positive place, and we don't really get that in the old movie. So maybe for the start, like the old movie is the more faithful, especially in tone. But then near the end of the book, like I said, it does get so like hopeful and uplifting. And there is some humor near the end too, just like some of the conversations she has with
Mhm.
Albert. And it's just really cute and funny. And so maybe in some ways the musical kind of matches the tone to the second half, whereas the old movie matches the tone of the first half of the book. So maybe both movies struggled to capture the full scope of the book, and the old movie was like, we'll just go the more serious route. Whereas the musical is like, we'll just go the more uplifting route.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting now that we have both versions that like one is more of like a heavy Oscar drama film. I think it was nominated 11 times
But
in
it
the
didn't win
80s.
any.
Yeah, which I
Yeah.
think that's a record. This movie has the record for most nominations without winning anything.
Yeah.
And then this one is more of like I guess the engaging, easy to watch,
Mm-hmm.
entertaining musical. Also, we definitely didn't mention Louis Gossett Jr. I totally
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know that he was in this movie until I watched it, and he has a really great part too
Yeah, as
as
Mr.'s
Mister
dad.
Senior, Mister's dad as Mister Senior, and he has some really great lines too. It's great to still see him doing stuff. Um,
Yeah.
because it's been what
Hmm.
like 40 years since he won the Oscar for Officer and a Gentleman.
A Few Good
Um,
Men. Yeah. Which he was also in the Watchmen miniseries back in like 2019, and he was fantastic in that too.
Yeah, he got an Emmy nomination. I think he played what's the character's name? Hooded Justice? I don't remember, but he was like
Yeah, he was
Regina
great
King's
though.
character's grandpa. It was an
Yeah.
amazing miniseries. Highly recommend you check that out.
Yeah.
Um, so now let's talk about this movie's Oscars. I think a lot of people predicted that this one would get more because its sole nomination is supporting actress for Danielle Brooks. This is her first ever Oscar nomination and probably her biggest movie that she's ever done. I've only really known her besides this from Peacemaker, but I know she was
Mhm.
also in Orange is the New Black,
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, this is the
which I
only thing
haven't
I've ever
seen.
seen her in.
I haven't seen, but I just found out that she's apparently been now nominated. With this, she's now an EGOT nominee. Like she hasn't won, but she's been nominated among all
Wow.
those categories.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, this film again was only nominated for one. Where else would we have put it in if the nominations were up to us?
I thought production design, I thought it was great. The costumes looked amazing. I also like when Mr. goes to Seeley's store and he buys those like super shiny pants and then he's wearing them in the end. I thought that was funny. But yeah, I feel like maybe production design, music, like it should have gotten something for one of its songs. I know Barbie got two. Like get rid of one of the Barbie songs and put in one from The Color Purple. Also, Fantasia was amazing, which I know I don't know who I would have bumped off of leading actress, but I was surprised, kind of surprised she didn't get anything. Oh, I haven't seen Naiad, but the fact that Naiad got so many nominations, I was like, I haven't heard anyone talking about this movie, and now
Yeah, Naya,
suddenly,
it was great, but I think I would have switched Annette Bening out for someone like Greta Lee, even Fantasia
yeah,
Barrino, even like Kaylee Spaney and Priscilla. I thought was better than Annette Bening. For me,
yeah.
I think she wasn't really in the discussion for any of the other ceremonies, but I would have also nominated Taraji P Henson to
Oh
be
yeah.
honest. Like, she's been nominated before, I think, for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, but I thought she stole the movie at least as much as Danielle Brooks did.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like Hidden Figures was also such a big movie at the Oscars, and she didn't get a nomination for Best Actress when that came out.
I
And
wonder if, like, because there's been drama of like Taraji P. Henson talking about how like she had to fight for how much she got paid for The
oh
Color Purple.
yeah,
And so I think maybe people got caught up in the drama of that, which she mentioned it, I think, in like one interview, and then the headlines just took it and ran with it, I think it sounds like. But I don't know if maybe it's like a personal thing where maybe whoever is voting in the academy is just like, oh, like she's, causing too much drama, so let's not give her a award. So I wonder if it comes down to something like that, which would be unfortunate because she was amazing.
mhm. Yeah. I don't know if I would have put this one in Best Picture, like above any of the ones that were nominated.
Yeah, I don't think I
How
would
do
have
you
put it in
feel?
Best Picture.
I think it got in for like Critics' Choice for Best Picture or something.
Yeah.
Um, I would have probably put it in for costume design.
Yeah.
Especially um, a lot of we're coming back to Taraji P Henson, but a lot of her looks were really great. And
Yeah.
when you've got a like a period musical, they really invested in it and made it look cinematic. So I would have
Hmm.
put in both Danielle Brooks and Taraji P Henson for supporting actors, and then costume design, and then original song. Maybe there could have been room for Keep It Moving because I know Diane Warren gets nominated every year, and I have not seen Flamin' Hot, but like I don't know, like I listened a bit to that song and I was like, whatever. So I would have switched that out for original song. So I guess total I would have given it 4 nominations instead of just the one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sounds fair. Which from with musical song, like it never went away from American Symphony. I don't even know what American Symphony is.
It's
Is
a
that
documentary. John
oh.
Batiste like stars in it, and he wrote the song. He won an Oscar a
Mm.
couple years ago for the score for Soul. Um,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I haven't seen that one either. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, any closing thoughts about this one?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we've already said that. Yeah, I feel like it deserved maybe a couple more nominations. And do I think even Danielle Brooks will win? Everybody, which again, I haven't seen the holdovers, but everybody is saying she's going to win for Best Supporting Actress. Um, sorry, I'm seeing who else is in this one. Oh, Emily Blunt, America Ferrera. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because
Yeah,
I've heard some people be like, "Oh,
if
what was her
anything,
name? Divine Joy Randolph." Some people are like, "Oh, she's for sure." But I don't know. I'm curious to see.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I do think this category is sort of like the best when it comes to like predicting because it looks like a lock right now because Davine Joy Randolph is doing so well. Like she's won everything, and I think the
Yeah,
holdovers being like such a well-regarded movie and having so many nominations. I think her role, first of all, I think she deserves to win, but just her role managed to get like the
yeah,
right campaigning and publicity. And so I think she's the best lock, unfortunately for Danielle Brooks when it comes to this year's like award actors. But honestly,
yeah,
when it comes to America Ferrera and Barbie, I'm more happy for America Ferrera as a person because I love her as an artist. Rather, as like I thought she was one of the top 5 supporting performances in the year. So honestly, I would have subbed her performance out just acting wise for Taraji P Henson.
mm,
So I'm
yeah,
more happy to say like Oscar nominee America Ferrera than I am like if I would compare it to other performances.
yeah.